fantastic. Ice lattes are kind of funny because it's like no matter what time of day or what temperature it is outside. It's currently right now like 65. I live in California. It doesn't get really that cold. Argumentatively, people will say California winters are as cold as some winters in other places, but I don't know. It's this or that. Ice lattes are just delicious, but we're not talking about ice lattes today. I want to talk about the one thing I talked about last year. And I actually made a video about this, kind of like reinstating my goal, my task, my mission, my things I wanted to do. Last year, I made a video about why I'm doing film photography. I'm gonna do film photography for a year. I feel like I said 4 a year, 4. Words are hard for me right now. And now it's the new year. It's 2025. I made this goal in 2024 last January. And obviously just to kind of throw the reason why I'm doing it was because I was getting bored for digital photography. I kind of started to just be like meh about it, So I said to myself, let's challenge yourself. Let's do something different. Let's do something that kind of is trendy right now, but also film never dies. So it was never a trend. Social media has grown that it's now putting more coverage. So yeah, I did photography for a year. I traveled the world with it almost, if you think about it, because I started in January, got my film camera, like my whole film situation, like learned the basics. And I've been to places. I've been to Japan, I've been to Canada, I've been to Italy, I've been to Iceland. Anytime I find myself going on a road trip, I take a film camera with me because it's these moments that I feel like you have to capture, and for some reason it looks way better on film. But film photography wasn't easy. I had to take a few steps and relearn the basics. I had to really kind of hone down my skills. Like I'm good with a digital camera. Like, that's no questions asked. I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while. But when you enter the realm of film photography, you have to relearn everything. You have to reorganize your structure and kind of go at it open-minded, but also like you're brand new at this, even if you know like the basics of it and stuff. So it was a journey. It was a process. It was challenging. And I did learn a few things while doing film photography that I feel like are important to call out. What I learned in boarding school is, I'm just kidding. What I learned in film photography is such a broad kind of conversation to have because there are so many things that I could list. There's a plentiful of them. Film photography can teach you so many things. Even if you have done it before, I feel like it can re-teach you, some things that you kind of just lost in the moment. So kind of compiling this list was challenging because I was like, what can I talk about? So I decided there's a few things that I was like, hey, this has taught me so much when I was, in my journey of film photography. For starters, re-taught me photography. Like I forgot about like some fundamental rules and some basics, and I kind of just threw it out the window. But it re-taught me to kind of take a step back and be like, let's understand how both aperture, shutter speed, and ISO can work together, and especially ISO, because you have a set ISO. You cannot change that. So you kind of like have those moments where you're like, okay, how does aperture and shutter speed work together to create such a beautiful image? Along with that note, it also taught me patience because with a digital camera, you can just run around, take photos, fix them in post-process. You kind of just find yourself just not caring the exposure, not caring about the white balance, not caring about how your highlights are gonna look. Are your highlights blown out? Because with film photography, you're exposing for your highlights. Actually, let me rephrase that. You're exposing for your shadows because you can't fix them in post-process, but you also know that your highlights can't be too blown out because it can wash the image. With digital photography, sorry, I was about to say film. With digital photography, you find yourself just kind of exposing, make sure the subject is in light, and then everything else you can do post-process. Sometimes you can fix your highlights because there's still data in there. And your shadows, there's still data in there as well. So you can bring those shadows up and recover what you like kind of lost in your photo. Film photography is not that. Along with that, it taught me how to actually properly frame my shots and like not worry about post-process cropping or something like that, you know, like using the rules of three, you know, being more abstract, being, you know, I like calling Wes Anderson when someone's in the center of the subject. But like, it teaches you just kind of to reframe your shot and how to actually properly frame your shot. Because like I said, a lot of stuff in digital can be fixed in post-process. Another thing I've learned is to actually like be patient with what you're about to capture. When I was in Japan, I was so eager just to capture everything, but then I realized like I only have 3 rolls of film, and you know, you're limited on your shots, because if I'm shooting on a 35mm camera, I could have between 34 to 36 shots. So if I only have 3 rolls of film, I'm kind of screwed if I blow through it just in like 1 or 2 days if I'm there for a week. And it's the same story for 120mm frame shots. You only get like 10 to 12 depending on your camera. Some cameras can only shoot up to like 8 to 10. I've seen that. So the whole conversation about patience really comes to play with, you know, properly exposing, framing your shots, and also understanding like, hey, I gotta like really create the shot. I can't just take it and be like, well, we'll see what happens. Like you're limited. It's like you're rationing every shot you're gonna take. So like it causes you to kind of listen to yourself and be like, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? You know? It's just, you know, like I said, it's one of those things where you can't find yourself, you know, gung-ho, you know, continuously shooting. You just have to take a breather. You have to relax. This is actually for me right now. Relax and understand that, like, is that worth the shot, you know? That's another thing. In film photography, maybe like relook a lot of things because you're so eager to like, you know, get your camera multiple shots all the time. But with film photography, because you know your limitations, you know, you don't have so many shots, everything you look at is completely different. You know, with the digital camera, you can look at something and be like, oh yeah, I could take that and, you know, throw something in Photoshop or fix it. But this one, you know, there's no post-process to fix it. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of ask yourself, like, what I'm looking at in this frame right here, is that art? Is that considered a wow factor? And sometimes it's not. For digital, maybe, because you can do some alterations, but when you do it on film, you get this this feeling when you try to alter something on film, you kind of feel like you're being like discouraging to your audience that, hey, this isn't real, but you know, I took it, you know? So film photography really just kind of makes you relook at everything, and you're kind of just asking yourself, like, is it worth it? Is that a wow factor? Obviously you can just take photos on films and still enjoy it. My favorite photos on film are the ones with people with friends. Like, it's just cute to see that. It's amazing. You can tell that that's a moment where it wasn't about the shot, it was just about having fun. And film photography can be like that too. I know I just had a whole spiel about, you know, you have your moments, you want to ask yourself, is the shot worth it? But there's also moments, depending on your film camera, there are also moments where you realize, like, hey, like, let's just have fun. Let's just take funny photos, you know? So this section is about what I learned, is just really about what I experienced. And the more I do film photography, the more I realize there's so much fun behind that I feel like everyone should get into it at least once or twice and just enjoy it, you know? Obviously, with film photography comes your pros and cons. You can't have something good without pros and cons. Nothing's perfect enough to just be perfect. Like, there's a few pros and cons, and with film photography, there are a few pros and cons. First pro, I mean, I'm just gonna start the list with just pros and hit you with the cons, you know? Pro number one is I love each film has like a different kind of style to it. You know, like for example, like an Ektar 100, 04 Delta 100 is a black and white film. This is already developed, but a Kodak, what is this, Kodak Color? What is this one? I think this is gold. I don't remember, but this is gold. Portrait 160, Ilford HP 500, black and white. Let me see if I can get out of the container. Like, each roll of film has a unique set of colors, especially the color films. Color films are usually done in like, they have kind of like a different Kelvin count on them. So one's Kodak Golds can be warmer, portraits can be kind of almost neutral, but a little bit more on the cooler side, but still have warmth to it. And then black and white films, 100 ISO is gonna be less grainy, but then a 400 is gonna be a little bit fine grained. So like, that's one of the pros, is that no matter what you're shooting with, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be just perfect, or if you expose it correctly. But you get my point. Each one's going to have its own unique perspective. When I was in Japan, I shot on Cinestill, which is known for their more teal, very like cooler shots. And then in Iceland, I shot a lot in Portrait 400. So it was a lot more of like cooler, but still warm. Like you can kind of grasp the whole color. And I think in Canada, I also use Portrait 400 because that happens to be my favorite. And then even in black and white film, like you have fine grain and you have like finer grain. And that's what's so cool. It's like a preset being put on your film. It's like each film's gonna come out differently. And also depending who you get it developed, sometimes they can work a little bit magic and add a little bit more contrast during the chemical process. So it's really cool. I think that's one of the biggest pros. You're gonna have uniqueness when you kind of shoot with film, which I love. I cherish every moment. Another pro, the film photography community, there's a few bad apples in the batch, but when you meet some people who are shooting film, it's an ongoing conversation. You have fun. You talk about your favorite shots. You talk about the shots you have taken. You talk about your favorite film cameras. Some of these people just become your friends because you love film photography, and it's so cool because it's like, it's something where you like, I don't know how many people will enjoy this, to then find out there's a whole group of people who enjoy it, and like I found my community. I mean, fortunately they are online, but when I know if I find a group here in San Diego, like I'm definitely gonna enjoy it. So that's another thing. If you know anyone, a film group in San Diego, please comment on the bottom below. Also, film cameras are freaking cool. I mean, like, they're the Leica M6, the Mamiya 645, the Mamiya RZ67, the Olympus 35 RC. These are the ones I own. They're unique looking. I mean, you have the Hasselblad X-Pan, you have the Fujifilm ones. You have so many film cameras out there in the world that are just beautifully made, and they look so freaking good. And I think that's another pro, is just that when you're walking around like the streets or anywhere you go, like people are gonna catch your eye and be like, what is that? And when you tell them it's a film camera, like they're like, whoa, that's like the most coolest looking film camera I've ever seen. In the conversation about film cameras, we can hop into the cons, because one of the things that I do hate about film photography is resellers. I've had this conversation with a few people where a camera will go like, it'll start to trend, and then people are like, be like, okay, this is trending. My dad has that contacts. Let me sell it for 3 times its price. You can go on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp, and you can see people selling cameras that are like, they sell them for a crazy price, which is not worth it, because sometimes they're damaged. They have wear and tear. People say like, oh, it doesn't work, but you can get it fixed. And so I think the con about film photography is that there are resellers who will upcharge everything. They would just gouge the heck out of the price. And it's sad, because it's like, for some people, like, they can't afford it, and they thought film would be such an alternate route to kind of do that, to get like a cheap film camera and just buy rolls of film. Like for example, the RZ67, I've seen people charge it for $5,000 because they see some famous photographer use it, but in reality, like, it's retail price. Like, you can get it for maybe like $800, $700 for a full kit. There's a Contax camera, I forgot what the model is. I remember back like maybe, beginning of 2024, that thing was only like $80, $60. Now it's like $400, $500, $600. And it's like crazy, because it's like almost coming to the point where some of these cameras are priced the same way a new camera is. So it's kind of like makes you think like, why would I buy that when I can just buy this, a newer model, and then just edit my photos to look like film photos. Like for example, like the Fuji X100VI, or any Fujifilm actually, to say, they have film simulators on their cameras, and I've seen a Fujifilm camera go for like maybe like $1,000, and a same kind of like film camera, let's say like the RZ67, or let's say a Canon AE1. I've seen a Canon AE1 go for $2,000. So it's like, let me buy the new camera and then just edit because I have a film simulator built in my Fujifilm camera. So that's one of the cons that I feel like can be in a rant itself, but it's one thing I just hate the most. Secondly, film is stupidly expensive sometimes. I say sometimes because depending on where you go, it can be different. Also, developing can be expensive. I mean, for example, Kodak Gold itself is considered the cheapest film. So I've seen it go for only like, the highest I've seen it is go for $10, but I see it go for like $6 to $8. But when you go into like Portra 160, Portra 400, Portra 800, they can vary from being like $12, $16, $22. It's kind of stupid how like expensive it's getting now these days. 120 film like this right here that's meant for medium format, this stuff is going for like $16 to $24. And when I went to Italy for a month, I think I bought 10 rolls of film, and it came up to being like $210. And I was like, it's kind of like, Jesus, this is a lot. And I only used maybe like 7 rolls, so I had 3 left over, and like to get all 7 developed, it was like almost the same amount to buy. But like I said, it varies where you go. There's stores that will gouge the price, and there's stores that will just keep it at like what they bought it for, because they know they're gonna make it up in doing development. And so like it's just one thing that kind of, I don't know, it kind of makes it hard to stay with film photography for some people, because it can get expensive. I mean, if I tracked how much money I spent on film, it's a lot. It's roughly a lot. Film, another con is film is also fragile. Film is literally just, I don't want to pull it because it's an exposed one, but it's this thin, kind of, I guess film material. And I've had scenarios where I've ripped a film out its cancer because I advanced too hard. Or there's scenarios where I'm trying to load it and I crack it. I cracked where the advancement would get a grip off these little holes. I ripped it, and like I'd have to now maneuver it to kind of fix it. Also that, like, if you forget you have a roll of film, and I've done it before, it happens to everyone. Once you open the roll of film, like the back of the camera, and there's a roll of film, majority of that film's already exposed and it's all ruined. I've had scenarios like that. Actually, I think this one here, no, not this one. I think this one here. I opened it in a dark room-ish. It was kind of dark, and I noticed it was in there, and I closed it really quick. So let's hope this comes out perfectly fine. And knowing that, so here's another thing. People will say that all films below 800 ISO can go into an X-ray at the airport. I don't think that's 100% true. Each X-ray is built differently. There are stronger X-rays, there's weaker X-rays. I always, whenever I travel, I give them my bag for them to manually check it, because I don't trust the X-rays. And I've had scenarios where I've had 2 rolls go in because I forgot about it, and like they were below 800 and they got fucked up. So it's kind of, what are you gonna do from there? But yeah, film is very fragile and very expensive. So it's kind of one of those things that cause people to be like, do I really want to deal with it? So, I hate to call these cons out because it kind of makes it sound like film photography sucks, but it doesn't. And I guess like this is the best way to say it. Overall, with its pros and cons, film photography is fun. It's enjoyable. It's what you capture out of it's beautiful. And I've had such a good time with it. I still want to continue with it, and I want to incorporate my work with it. Like anytime I go to like shoots or do weddings, like I want to mix the two, because like people's reactions to a digital versus film, it's still the same. Like I've showed people some shots I did on film, and they're like, that's freaking crazy good. And so, I want to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it because I bought all this equipment, so I can't really say no, and hopefully this video gives you hindsight of film photography. I know it's part time of like me telling my journey, but hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully it made you realize that like film will never die, and it's something worth doing. Like I said, I'm gonna keep doing it. Nothing can stop me now. But I hope you enjoyed this video in the end. Like and subscribe. I know this was more of a rant, but that's usually how most of my videos are. Just a rant, me ranting. So anyways, thank you. And I'll leave you with this one beautiful photo that I took. Probably in Iceland, because I have a bunch from Iceland. Maybe Italy. I don't know which one I'm posting up yet. But I know it's gonna be. I know it's gonna be. Anyways, thank you for watching. Catch you later.